I finally used up the last of my fee-free dollars on plastic, which I was previously using to pay my rent. So now I've been using this Bilt credit card to pay for my rent for about 8 months now. In this video, I'll be covering the features of this card, my personal experience owning the card, things that you won't find on that Bilt website, and it waited this long because things kept on changing when I first got the card, so definitely feel free to skip around if you're looking for something specific. If you're curious what it looks like when you just get it, I already did a whole unboxing video on that. You can check it out on my channel. Disclaimer, it's a really cool unboxing, something I've never seen before. But first, let's run through the main features of this card. It does earn points, especially on rent, which is the headlining feature. It earns 1x per dollar on rent, up to 100,000 points that you can earn per calendar year. This is up from the 50,000 that I had seen originally when I first got the card. You also get unlimited 2x per dollar on travel, 3x per dollar on dining, and then 1x on everything else. Every first of the month, you also get double points on anything you purchase except on rent. You can see and use those points immediately after the transaction posts, assuming that you've made 5 transactions each statement period. That's the main caveat, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But otherwise, you can use your points whenever since they don't expire. But there's also no foreign transaction fees on this card. It's on the World Mastercard Elite network, so you get the World Elite benefits. It also has primary CDW car insurance, and I took advantage of this feature immediately when I had to rent a car. You can check out my Nissan videos that I've done. And even though it has no annual fee to own this card actually is all metal, and it's the heaviest metal card that I own, even heavier than the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Amazon Prime one. There's also a monthly challenge where you can possibly earn a month of rent and other prizes. And I tried this out for the first few months owning the card, but after a while it just got kind of tedious, and there's just such a low chance of winning that I pretty much gave up. The bank servicing this card is Wells Fargo, so you actually do need to make an account with them as well as with Bilt to fully take advantage of all the features of this card. So the Bilt app is where you want to be. While you can technically manage some things on their website, in order to pay for rent, you have to do it all through their app. So you have 2 ways to pay for your rent. You can either do it through ACH or you can do it through check. Both of these methods will not charge you any additional fees or processing fees as you would have to incur if you were to pay via a credit or debit card. You can do it by ACH, in which Bilt will auto-generate a bank routing and account number that you can use to input onto your rent payment portals, and it will still charge it to your Bilt credit card, which is pretty cool. And it's been really seamless for the months that I've used this for. And it'll actually be even more seamless if you actually rent at a Bilt property, in which you can schedule auto payments and you don't have to worry about having to schedule these rent payments every time in advance. Initially, I actually used the second method, which is via check. So this was a little bit tricky, and it was a little bit like plastic, so I was a little bit familiar with it. Unlike the ACH method, where you would just directly input details on your rent payment portal, via the check method, everything initiates from the Bilt app. So you have to put in your landlord's address, and then you would have to time it properly so that the check would arrive in time of when you need to make the payment. In practice, I did roughly mid-month prior to the first of the next month that I need to pay the rent for in order to give enough time for the check to travel to its destination. And it seems like it was shipping out from the West Coast, and being on the East Coast, it definitely did take a while. And because it was mailing USPS regular mail, it was a little bit difficult to track where it is. There's no certified mail or anything like that. So as far as tracking, you can really only know when your check was mailed and then when your landlord actually deposited the check. But for tracking your other transactions, it's pretty clear cut in the Bilt app. I like that they also show you how your progress is towards making that 5 transactions per statement period to ensure that you get the points. And you can easily monitor your points earning progress. And you can also monitor your transaction history and also even sort both the points earning and also transaction history by the category. And something they added new is the ability to view your PDF copy of your statements right in the Bilt app too. They also have a built-in chat feature so you can contact their customer service with any of your questions, which I found their customer service to be pretty decent, tend to be American-based, so that's always good. And while you can pay off your card balance in the Bilt app, you're not able to set up auto pay in just the Bilt app. To do so, you still need to have a Wells Fargo account, and I verified this using their chat service. It was funny because I asked the question if I can set up auto pay in the Bilt app itself, and then they gave me instructions to go make a Wells Fargo account basically. So Wells Fargo app account I basically use to for sure set up that auto pay. If I needed to freeze my card or to get a replacement card, all those things I would have to do with Wells Fargo. And that also includes how you manage your points. So what can you redeem your points for? Well, it's primarily for travel. It's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. So you can do things like book hotels and also transfer to airline partners at 1-to-1 ratio. Here are all the current supported travel options, and I'm sure Bilt is trying to secure more partnerships in the future, which I have seen just from the short period of when I've owned this card. And you can also use it towards some of Bilt's own branded items like their fitness programs, their merchandise even, or for buying Bilt properties. And then for less recommended ways to redeem your points, you can technically redeem it on Amazon at a reduced rate, and also as a statement credit or to pay off your next rent at a reduced rate, which is at only 55 cents per point that you earn. So if you primarily only use this card to get 1x back on rent, you would effectively only be getting 0.55 cents per dollar on the rent that you spend, which is super low. So this is definitely a travel incentive card. Although from the time that I first got the card, Bilt has definitely made a lot of improvements to their app. There's definitely still things that I would really wish that they would address to make the experience much better. First of which is that 5 transaction post requirement, which is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, it's not difficult to meet because what I did was to basically set up reoccurring $1 payments to certain charities to meet this 5 transactions without me thinking about it every month. But it's still another step to think about using this card for a transaction that I otherwise wouldn't use this card for. Plus, originally when I was making these $1 donations, it was just to one charity, but for different designations. But Bilt, for whatever reason, thought that it was just one transaction and it coded it as this. So as you can see in this screenshot, I clearly met the 5 transaction requirement, but Bilt only recognized it as 2 transactions. I did contact the customer service about this, and they basically were like, you just need to wait a little bit and then it should recognize it. But I can tell you that wasn't the issue because the next month I just straight up used different charities and then Bilt was able to recognize that properly. So something to keep in mind if you do go this automatic donation route. Another big thing is definitely the user experience, having to deal with both Bilt as well as Wells Fargo. I wish I could manage my card on just one single account, similar to what PayPal does with their Cashback Mastercard, where I didn't even have to make an account with Synchrony Bank. I can manage everything through the PayPal app. I wish Bilt would implement something similar. Because my gosh, I hate Wells Fargo's app. It's super slow, it's clunky, and it often breaks. There was also no way for me to control the notifications for my Bilt card. I had to go through Wells Fargo, and then actually I first reached out to Bilt's customer service and they changed it for me on their end. But it'd be nice if I could just do all of this myself. And speaking of their customer service, Bilt doesn't have a phone number that you can call. Instead, you have to either start a support ticket online or you can try to use their chat system. Whereas Wells Fargo has their own separate customer service. So if you have questions about cards or you want to contest a fraudulent transaction, for example, you have to pick up the phone and call Wells Fargo's customer service. So I wish there was just one single number, one contact, one means of where I can get support for my one credit card. Again, PayPal's Cashback Mastercard is able to do this, so I don't see why Bilt can't do this for their card. One hiccup that I experienced when I first got the card as well is also in relation to the small $1 payments. What was happening is the transaction would go through, I would see the amount pending on my account, but then days later it just wouldn't post and I wasn't sure what was going on. So what was happening was Wells Fargo was still accepting the payment, but then behind the scenes they would just reject it as they thought it could be a scam since it's such a new account. So I had to end up again calling customer service from Wells Fargo to tell them that, hey, yeah, these are actually my transactions and please let them through. So just to let you know, Wells Fargo is very sensitive about that. Some other small caveats: you won't earn any points on transactions less than $1, and so they always round down if you have cents. Other issuers like Chase, they always round appropriately, so kind of annoying there. Also wish the Bilt website had the same functionality as their app. I'm not sure why they couldn't just mimic the same functionality. And something to keep in mind if you do end up switching properties like I did midway through is that you can only make one rent payment without any fees for the first property per month, and you can't set up multiple properties to pay rent for. And if you're trying to use the ACH method to pay for a property but the previous resident is still living there, it won't let you. So it was a little bit of a hassle because I was trying to pay my new property's first month fees, but couldn't because the prior tenant was still living there. And there's currently no sign-up bonus for this card outside of this 5x on your transactions except rent on the first 5 days of having this card welcome offer. Now I know I just listed a whole lot of downsides, but they weren't enough to stop me from wanting to use this card to earn points on my rent since there's nothing else on the market like it. So if you are interested in earning points on your rent, this is definitely the card to get. So in terms of acceptance, it seems to be pretty easy to get, and you can get it with a pretty high credit line as well. It pulled TransUnion for me. Again, you can check out my unboxing video where I actually walk through my application process. So to sum things up, there really is no other card in the market like this that you can earn cash back on rent without any additional fees. There are also talks that this will eventually allow you to earn points even on your mortgage payments, which I would look forward to. I do think that the relationship between the Wells Fargo app website and the Bilt app could be more seamless. Ideally, everything should be managed just in the Bilt app. Also wish the points were a little bit more valuable besides just travel, and there's currently no sign-up bonus available for this card, but those two things are more of a wish ask. As usual, the application link for this card is in the description.